There is this myth in our culture that we will meet something called a soulmate, which doesn't exist, somewhere in our 20s. We will stay together and be happily married until life ever after, right? Until death do us part. When in fact, that is the most atypical form of human pair bonding that exists on the planet.
Welcome to Carry On, the show where we explore reinvention, self-discovery, and empowerment before, during, and after midlife. I'm your host, Carrie Murray. It's time to keep our head above the chaos and carry on. My guest today is Dr. Wendy Walsh, a psychology professor and one of the most trusted voices on love, sex, and the science of human connection. With more than 3 decades in media, she's an Emmy-nominated co-host on The Doctors and an anchor of the nationally syndicated show on Extra and a commentator of CNN, HLN, and Fox. Over a decade of her own show, Dr. Wendy Walsh Show here in Los Angeles. Today, we're going to carry on about all things love, relationship, and human connection, especially after the age of 40. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you got to be here. I just want to recap. Remember when we met at that LA Confidential luncheon? We were on the magazine together, and Katie Chen and
were we wearing robes? Was there a hot tub?
Yes.
I think we were.
We were. Yes. We were wearing robes, and you were so warm and welcoming to me. I knew Andrea Zito was there.
Yep,
Katie Chen, I knew nobody, but you were you just sat right down. So I just want to remind everyone, you never know who's going to sit next to you.
That's right.
Because here we are.
It's the Canadian in me.
Aww.
Hey, how you doing, eh?
I love it. I love it. Well, welcome. I'm so happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
So as you know, my show focuses on really issues any woman over 40 is feeling, midlife, I call it our queen age years.
They are.
And we're going through so many different changes. Have you observed how women approach relationships differently in their 40s over 40 compared to when we were our young little 20-year-old selves?
Well, I will say the biggest difference is reproduction, right? With the reproduction pressures behind us, women can choose a mate who simply they gel with, who makes them happy. Also, women over 40 have accumulated a certain degree of financial security, whether it's from divorcing well or accumulating wealth through a career. They're less interested in a man who's going to be a prince in a castle, who's going to take them in as the damsel in distress. So it impacts gender roles. But the other piece is that because we're not looking for immediate reproduction, we also come with a tribe. So when you get with somebody over the age of 40, you've got kids, you've got aging parents, you've got exes that you're dealing with. They've got their own tribe as well. And so that adage that a relationship is a bridge between tribes, that bridge has to be really strong now for those two tribes.
I love that. And I know for myself, if I could talk to 20-year-old Carrie in our 20s, when we are first dabbling with relationships, it's almost like we would cut another woman's head off for a man and everything. We were so competitive and for their attention. And now we're distrusting. We're like, did you see who she's dating now? I feel like we're become so protective. Do you think that's because of what we've been conditioned to understand as our gender roles, and that now we're in our 40s and later and being I don't know about that.
It's biological.
Okay.
So here's what evolutionary psychologists would say. During our reproductive years, when we're really high on estrogen, when our bodies are our uterus is screaming for a baby, we feel female to female competition in a very strong way. There's a competition for mates, right? And women can be really evil to each other. But after, you see, motherhood is the big equalizer, right?
Yeah.
We all got hemorrhoids and varicose veins now. Nobody's getting out of here alive. We're all starting to sag, right? And what evolutionary psychologists will point to is menopause is a very dramatic time in a woman's life where her hormones change enormously. And we are, except for killer whales and pilot whales, the only species on the planet that has a third of a woman's life where she is young, wise, experienced, effective, opinionated, and sterile. So why did this third of our life of sterility come? They came because women over 50 are the custodians of the social order. Research has been done on moms who had mothers alive and found that the more grandkids that a woman has, the more likely those grandkids will grow up to survive and be successful. So we're taking care of the next generation. We're taking care of older generation. We're running politics. We're running business. Men's testosterone, even if a woman is married, Her husband's testosterone is going down, so he may be the CEO, but she's at home going, honey, tomorrow, what I really think you should do at the office is, we have a lot more agency.
And there's so much power with agency, and
Yeah.
and it's I as you know, I am recently divorced, and you were recently married, so congratulations. What would you recommend for someone like me, or anyone who's watching this who kind of feels, love screwed me over? Like, I feel kind of betrayed by him, obviously. But now, like, the idea for me to be dating again, we did a whole episode on, like, should I go on the apps or not?
Right.
What would you, not that you need to coach me right now,
I'd
it's
be
my
happy
show.
to. I'll be happy to.
What would you say to Carrie if I called into your show and said, Dr. Wendy, what do I do?
Well, the first thing I want to do is normalize your situation because it's typical. There is this myth in our culture that we will meet something called a soulmate, which doesn't exist, somewhere in our 20s. We will stay together and be happily married until life ever after, right? Till death do us part. When in fact, that is the most atypical form of human pair bonding that exists on the planet. Our life expectancies continue to lengthen, right? So if you got married in the year 1900 and professed till death do us part, the average length of that marriage was 12 years.
Oh.
You were dying from death and destruction and disease. Immunizations came on the market, better health care came on the market, right? Soap. And so we lived longer and longer and longer. Now, if you got married in 1990, like almost 100 years later, and you professed till death do us part, the average length of that marriage was 12 years. So now we're separating by divorce rather than death. But the truth is we outgrow our relationships. Relationships have a purpose, right? And early in life, it's to build a home, to have children, often, if that's what you're going to do, build a business, build a charity, be a partnership, right? But we change. Individuals change across a lifespan. And while I'm in awe of the super attachers who may be married for 40, 50, or even 60 years, if you count back the clock to when that relationship started, they didn't really have a lot of choice, right?
Right.
Now we have health, wealth, and choice. And so people are making decisions for themselves. But the purpose, I would like to say that you didn't divorce. Your marriage culminated. It culminated.
Oh, I like that.
It's finished living. And now you're moving on to the next great
next
relationship
iteration
of your life.
Yeah. And you got married later in life.
Yes.
Tell me about that and give us the gush. We want to hear the girl
So,
talk about it.
I had a big white Catholic wedding for my mother when I was 20.
Okay.
Because I had moved in with my college boyfriend, and my mother was just very Catholic and said, I'm not talking to you ever again until you get a ring on your finger. So I did all the things girls do and pressured him and had this big white Catholic wedding. And that lasted until I graduated college. And then later in life, I had a big career in media. I met a guy, and it was like the 11th hour of my fertility window. I was 35 years old, and he was a non-smoking, non-drinking vegetarian who looked like a former football player. I was like, okay, this could work. He fits the bill. Not doing any research at all. We got pregnant within 8 weeks of meeting. Well, clearly that relationship didn't work out, although we had 2 children. I didn't marry him, and I ended up being a single mother for 20 years with 100% custody and $0 child support.
Wow.
I supported the whole damn show. I should add here, I've never been supported by a man in my life. Never taken a penny from a man. I'm a true free woman.
Get it. Before we jump back in, quick story. For 10 years, my company was called Bra Network, Business Relationship Alliance. Support was literally my brand. So when I tell you I'm picky about bras, I mean it. And I'm obsessed with Handful. It lifts without wires, flatters without flattening, and feels good all day. Not just for those 30-second Instagram posts. I wear it to yoga, I wear it to filming, I wear it when I need to feel pulled together but comfortable. It's the kind of support that doesn't squeeze you into somebody else's shape. Use code CARRYON at handful.com. Support and make it intentional. Now back to the show.
Anyway, so I had read the statistics. I was raising 2 girls. That one of the most dangerous places for a child to live in America is in a home with a non-biologically related male. Mommy's boyfriend, stepdad, stepbrother, 8 times the rate of emotional abuse, physical abuse, or sexual abuse.
I got my degree in social work,
You know.
so I'm very aware. Yeah.
So I saw that and I said, you know what? I'm putting my pussy on the back burner. I don't need to expose my daughters to a bad romantic choice that I might make. So I put my head down and said, I'm going to be a good mother and a provider and a wage earner. Who knows how well I did? You can only interview them and their therapists to figure out how well I did. But, and then when the youngest was in high school, I said, and COVID had started, and I was sitting home lonely like everybody else. I said, I'm going to get on those apps, and I'm going to take the advice of that radio doctor, that Dr. Wendy, and I'm going to see what she says I should do. And I literally, having read the science of human mating for 30 years, literally like had a little, like, have the angel on your shoulder, the Dr. Wendy going, well, what would Dr. Wendy, would she text him back so quickly? Would she flirt in that text? No. Would she try to what would she say? And I just followed my own advice. And within a matter of weeks, met the man who became my husband. We've been together almost 6 years now.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Love that. So when you're courting, what's kind of I haven't dated since, 2001. So I know
different.
the game has changed.
Yeah.
What are the rules now? What's the thing? Especially, I'm
only going to tell you the girl rules.
That's all the ones I need to know.
They can try whatever they want.
Yeah.
So first of all, there's an unconscious contract that is made, a silent contract that's made in every relationship. And that contract is written between the first text and the first sex. Literally, you're saying, are you going to treat me like my abandoning daddy? You're going to treat me like my critical mom? Cool, it's on. Even though the conversations are, what music do you like? What movies do you like to go to? Underneath, there's an unconscious contract that's happening. So the only way a woman can assess a guy's intention, and this has been proven in so many studies, is delaying the onset of first sex in a new relationship. Because what it does is makes the players leave. If they're there just for sex. And then what happens is you can't take it personally. You have to do the touchdown cheer. Yay, got rid of one. This is great. It is a step forward when he leaves. It is not abandonment because there's anything wrong with you. And that's your head game that you have to play in your head. What dating apps have done is they've created an illusion of too much dating opportunity. There's a brain trick called paradox of choice, which means whenever our brain is presented with a lot of choice, we actually have a hard time making a choice.
Yeah, for sure.
And when we do make that choice, we don't value it very much. We're thinking about the bigger, better deal that might have gotten away, or the other one if we'd swipe just a little longer, right? And so most of the people you will meet on dating apps are trapped by a paradox of choice. The men and the women. Yeah. They have their message boxes filled with 20 people and they're messaging all day, and they seem to have dating apathy. I call it dating apathy.
Love that.
So the most important thing you want to do is never match with more than 2 people at once, because you don't want to create this in your own brain. And get on the telephone very quickly. If they won't get on the phone, goodbye. Swipe them, ghost them. If they can't even... if you can't make a fucking phone call, how are you going to be there for me in my life, right?
Yeah.
So it's little tests, because here's the other wonderful thing about human nature. We value what we get to work for.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah.
And women do not set up enough obstacles for men, so they don't feel, by the time they get there, they don't value you because they didn't get to do the work of courting. But we set up the courtship. It's our job to set up the courtship. But we're so afraid he's going to abandon us because we think he's the last man standing on the planet. But he's not. There's thousands more right on that app, okay? And if he abandons you, it means you did the right thing. He's not the good guy. Yeah. And so I did all those little steps with the man who became my husband and slowed everything down. I think from our first text to first sex was probably 2 months.
Okay.
And, I'm trying to think certain milestones. We did the first phone call, then the first coffee. Then I moved it up to maybe I can find time for a lunch, right? Again, your time is the most valuable thing you have as a woman.
Absolutely.
And if he texts you during the day and says, you want to hook up tonight, or he's thinking hook up, have dinner tonight, you say, oh, I would have loved to. And you make him feel real good. Oh, darn, I'm missing this opportunity, but I'm sorry, I have plans.
Yeah. Don't be so accessible, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he values you more.
Yeah. And don't be that girl that cancels on your friends because he's texted you.
Right.
No.
He's not the only one.
Yeah.
And the only one will prove himself by getting through all the obstacle course that you set up for him.
Wow. When did you know he was the one? What's his name? Your husband?
Julio.
When did you know Julio was the one?
Julio, Julio. When he spoke Spanish to me one night.
That was Get it, girl.
It was a slow burn. It wasn't instant. I remember thinking on our first coffee date, this guy's jumpy. And he's also not physically my type. Like, he's a skinny guy, and he just kept, remember, it was during COVID, and here was my obstacle. I would only meet people outdoors on a windy pier wearing a mask.
Okay.
And if they wouldn't do those criteria, it was before vaccinations, it was before
wow.
tests, it was before everything. Remember that?
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
thought the virus was floating everywhere, going to grab us, right?
Yeah. We were wiping down groceries.
Yes. A box of groceries went in the sink in the water. Right? Crazy what we were doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was that time. So if they couldn't tolerate that, that wasn't happening. So I had my peers picked out where I knew they were serving takeout food, where they could go into the bar and get the food and bring it out, right? And so he gets jumping up and down to get the food. Is it ready yet? Let me go check. And I'm like, dude, settle down, right?
Yeah.
He says now it's because he saw me, and for him it was love at first sight. So he was so nervous. He just had this nervous energy. But then, we progressed to a lunch and then a dinner. And I'll tell you the moment. This is a wonderful story. I knew him maybe 3 weeks, and I said, he asked me out, and I said, oh, no, I can't. By the way, I did this impulse buy on an old broken down farm in Oregon, and I have to go close on this real estate deal. It's a 12-hour drive. He goes, I'll go with you. I'm like, you will drive 12 hours with me? And he goes, yeah, let's just do it. So we get all the way up 12 hours. We get to the escrow office. It'd been a long time since I'd purchased any real estate. I brought a personal check. And I pull out my personal check for the down payment, and he looks at me and he's like, honey, you can't use a personal check to buy real estate. You need a certified check, or the wire transfer should have gone in, or whatever. So he never made me feel bad. He worked with the escrow person. He called my bank. He asked for their manager, It was super calm and just had this demeanor about, I'm going to solve this, don't worry. And then in the end, he said, look, they said we have to drive back 3.5 hours to California to go to the branch, and they're going to give us an actual check. And of course, I'm used to spoiled, rotten, narcissist boys. So you know what I say? I'm so sorry, I'm keeping you away from your work. Let me get you a hotel room here and your laptop, and you can work. I'll drive back to California. And he goes, what? We're a team.
Wow.
And after a 12-hour drive, he turned around with me to drive 3.5 hours back. And as we stopped to load up the gas, I was doing like this in my wallet, trying to get the card to go. I'm just not used to being taken care of. And I turn around, and he's already at my side. He's already swiped his card. He's already pumping my gas. And I just looked at him and said, I love you. And you know what he said? You're doing this at a gas station? Come on. You don't have any more romance in you.
I love that. That's very sweet.
I just hadn't been taken care of in so long.
Yeah.
So to have somebody who was a caregiver I was just like, that's it.
Yeah, that's a very, very sweet story. I love that. And I think women have a hard time not only asking for help, especially in the bedroom. Let's talk about that. Like, how can we stop being like, oh, clutch my pearls, and start asking for what we want. And what is happening?
Well, the bedroom is not a place to be demanding, just to let you know. It's a very intimate place for everybody. And as a note to people over 40, not everything's working the way it used to, okay? I have friends who say, we don't have intercourse anymore, we have outer course, right? So there are ways to get your dopamine. There are ways to feel aroused and get close to each other without it being whatever swinging from the chandeliers you did in your 20s, right?
Exactly.
So at the age of 50% of men have erectile dysfunction. At 60, it's 60%, and at 70, it's 70%. They're not unique if this happens. Women, because of the drop in hormones, have all kinds of vaginal atrophy, and intercourse can be very painful. So it's important to have these conversations early before you get to the bedroom and talk about medical interventions that there exist for both people to extend the length of their sex lives. And this is called intimacy.
I love that.
Right? Have the conversations before and have the intimacy.
Yeah, and it should be about getting to know each other, but also these new bodies.
Yeah.
They don't function, like you said, in your 20s when you're at, doing keg stands and everything, college. So that's great advice. I love that.
Question I asked on our very first coffee date, we sat down and I said, we could sit here and tell each other how great we are, but why don't we start the conversation by sharing a story of why we think we're completely undateable? And he goes, oh, okay, you go first. So we established our relationship with almost a shameful secret, with intimacy.
Yeah, I love that. What was your story? No, you don't have to share it.
She said no. One of the things I did share is that both my parents were dead at my age. They died young of weird cancers. So I'm like, I don't know how long you'll have me, so you better move fast, dude.
I love it. And he must be so proud of you and everything you've accomplished in your career, and just you, Dr. Wendy Walsh, as the professor and everything. I mean, it's...
Well, his buddies say to him, how can you date a relationship expert? And aren't you scared? And he says, you know what? If I couldn't figure out how to have a healthy relationship with her, I couldn't do it with anybody.
Yeah.
Because I do give a running dialogue and I'll go, well, the research supports the, like the nerd in the kitchen.
Yeah. And so tell us about your work as a teacher and educator. And when you're seeing this upcoming generation, you're like, okay, these are going to be the people who are going to be having babies and continuing the human race. And what are your insights, and what do we have?
I'm super worried about them. So I have been teaching psychology at California State University Channel Islands for almost 12 years now. And I have seen these digital natives be able to talk to each other by text and not be able to look each other in the eye. And it seems to be getting worse. A little better since the post-COVID generation. Every year I say to the students, which 2 years were you on Zoom? Or which 3 years? And it was really awful a few years ago. The worst, and there's research to support this, the worst generation that was hurt socially because of COVID quarantines were ones who did grades 10 and 11 and 12, because that's the time they're supposed to be separating from their family of origin, and they're supposed to be doing sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? This is the experiment time. And they all missed it. So it's almost like middle schoolers entered college. And they were so afraid. I'd put them in discussion groups, and they would I'd give them a discussion question, they'd just stare at their phones. They wouldn't even talk to each other.
Wow.
Now, interesting, this semester I'm teaching asynchronously online, and I've set up online discussion boards, chatting away with each other. So much texting with each other, and so much intimate stuff and anecdotal stories about their life and their upbringing, because I teach developmental psychology. So I'm like, maybe they're just communicating in a different way. But the attachment injuries that I'm seeing with this next generation because of parental divorce, because of mobility for jobs, we don't have the many generations living in one house or town or what have you. So they're really, and then, what the dating apps have done. And a lot of young women still believe the adage that female sexual freedom means they get to do what the boys do, when actually a woman's biology is very, very different. And adopting a male model of anything isn't female freedom.
Wow. My daughter's, freshman in college right now. And I'm always thinking, like, what does intimacy look like? What does a relationship look like if you're only FaceTiming, or you're only, doing long distance?
Just texting is the word they use. I've got this boyfriend, but we're just texting.
It's
not a boyfriend.
That's not a boyfriend, exactly. And
it could be a robot for all we know.
Exactly. It could be a lot of things. Right. Yeah, it could be really creepy. And what's your advice to these kids coming up and starting relationships and starting families and wanting to
do the scary thing?
Yeah.
And this message is really to young men. Do the scary thing. Talk to a young woman and ask her. I know that economically, Gen Z has no money, no jobs, whatever. We're not talking about fancy dinners. We're talking about going stargazing and bringing a little glass of wine. We're talking about going on a hike together. We're talking about going for ice cream, going for a coffee. This is not, but just, you've got to tolerate rejection. There's actually research that shows that men unconsciously, it's hardwired in them, over-report a woman's interest in them. And that's designed to give them the bravery. Unfortunately, it turns into sexual harassment all the time.
Right.
But it also is designed to give them the bravery to go out and ask a girl out, right? At the basic biological level, sperm chases egg, not the reverse. So while women say, well, should I just ask him out? Because I can do that now. Yeah, you can, but your value is going to go way down. You know what women can do? They can extend the invitation. Do you know what extending the invitation is, ladies? It's the hair flip, and it's the blink, and it's laughing a little bit louder at his jokes than he is funny. And women have done this for many, many, many generations. In fact, I have a podcast called Mating Matters, and in one episode is called Funny is for Foreplay. And I had comedians on, or funny men, and scientists who talk about what humor does in mating. And actually, it showcases intelligence. You have to be pretty smart.
You do.
You got to know your room, your references,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
But I asked the men, how do you know that your joke is landing with a woman? And they said, doesn't matter. If she laughs, even if we know it was a dumb joke and it wasn't that funny, the more she laughs, the more we know she likes us. So they even know that they aren't that funny.
Right.
These are just quiet signals that women give.
Yeah.
You know, flip that hair, look him in the eye and then look away quickly like you're a little embarrassed. Laugh a little harder at his joke. I watch young girls do it in Starbucks all the time, and I'm like, yeah, you got it down, girl. Female mating strategy. Your grandmother's had it, your great-grandmother's had it, and that's why you're here today.
Absolutely. I can picture my granny right now walking the streets of London, just
That's right.
tossing that
That
hair
hair.
aside.
Exactly.
Yep. Love you, Granny. And miss you.
But, you know, adopting a male model of I'm going to call him up and ask him out never works for women.
Love that. Love that. And so flipping it back to women of older, I won't say
Yeah.
older, women in midlife, maybe, you know, reinventing themselves or trying something new out. What if they just want to be single?
That's cool too. Not everybody needs a mate. Having said that, I will say that we are wired to bond. We need people. The worst punishment we ever give a human being is isolation.
Oh, so true.
Solitary confinement. Being alone is different than not having a primary relationship. Many people who say, I don't want to date, I want to be alone, actually have commitments to their kids, their grandkids, their girlfriends. They have many close bonding relationships and lots of social support. So in essence, they have relationships.
Yes,
It's
so
just
true.
not the romantic one. But isolation and loneliness and I don't need a man, I don't like to hear that.
Yeah, and we're kind of in this epidemic because of all these apps and everything. People are becoming so siloed, and then I feel like with the added crap that's happening with politics and what the division is becoming bigger and bigger, and we're getting farther and farther apart. That it's hard to build relationships, have intimacy if we can't even find a common ground. We're so divisive right now. Like, are you worried about what's going to happen? I mean, we already know what's happening politically, but I mean,
and on the dating apps, when people write, if you vote this side, I won't date you.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're starting off right there, right? You know, voting never used to be an identity. Politics was never an identity. You were never on a team. It was a behavior that you did in the privacy of a voting booth. And then you didn't talk about it for another year, right?
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden, people are wearing the shirts, wearing the jerseys, wearing the hat, and making their personal identity be part of a political party. Instead of, I mean, I try to think of myself as a centralist. I'm not registered as either party. And sometimes I will look at things of what I would think would be the bad party, and I'll be like, no, actually, that one makes really good sense that they're doing, right? And then the ones that are my party, and I'm like, they shouldn't be doing that, right? So I think we all need to have that critical mind, and we need to come back together and have conversations that when you have a conversation about politics with somebody in your personal life, it shouldn't feel like an attack on their identity. It should feel like, let's go to the policies. What policies do you like that he does? Well, that's interesting. Why do you like that? That's a little different, right? Then I'm on the team.
Yes, very, very much so. And you can advocate for what you really believe in. How soon into, in your first dating do we bring up politics?
I think when politics are aligned with values, it will be very obvious very quickly. You don't have to ask somebody who they voted for. You will hear in their language and communication what their values are.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I personally am loving to hear the language of that Tellerico out of Texas right now, because he
makes a lot of
talks
sense.
like a Christian conservative. He's in a seminary school or whatever, but he's all about bringing everybody together and love thy neighbor. His slogan is love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a good one for politics?
Yeah.
We need to get back to all just loving each other. We're all on the same team. It's called America.
Yeah, so true. So true. And even as a Canadian.
Yes, even I'm both. I'm dual. Although there's talk they want us to choose. Like some congressman put something in that said, if you have dual citizenship, you're
You
going
have to
to
decide.
choose. Right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that.
I know. I got American kids.
I love that. Well, as we wrap it up, I want you to tell the people where we can find you. I know your show just recently wrapped. Culminated. Congratulations on 10 very successful years. That's quite an accomplishment. What's next? What do you have on the horizon?
I'm actually in talks with a particular sponsor to bring it back as a live stream once a week. Yeah, so if anybody's interested in getting involved with my YouTube channel, I do have 1.5 million followers. I kind of left them hanging when I went off the air.
And I remember TikTok, when you were growing your
YouTube,
TikTok, it was so smart and so clever how you would just come in and give advice one after another. It was so
Although
great.
I do want to say this about social media. I've read the research and its association with depression. I don't post as much as I did anymore because... I don't want my mood to be associated with how many likes and views.
Yeah.
And I actually went off social media completely for 1.5 years when I was just renovating my farm and just decorating and living in nature and hiking every day. And I felt my mental health change.
Really?
I was like, so I'm going to go back with more agency. Generally what I do, I know you think I'm doing it every day, but I'll set up a day like this in my house and set up some lights and change my shirt a lot and do 20 videos and just leave them in there. And then for the next month, I'll pop one up every other day so that I don't have to think about it too much.
And that's what I do here. I film multiple episodes in one day and kind of slowly drip them out.
But in answer to your question, I'm at Dr. Wendy Walsh everywhere.
Gotcha. And we're going to be looking for your show, your web series very, very soon. Thank you so much for being my guest. And I'm so glad you sat next to me at that luncheon.
In a robe.
In a robe. I really, really appreciate your time. And as anyone who's watching this and commenting, put a heart emoji in the comments and let us know you're still looking for love, or if you were inspired by this, or just
Yes, I'm also flirting with the idea of doing private coaching.
Oh, okay.
But for, very, exclusive consultations with only specific clienteles, because I'm not a mass market girl.
Right. Well, put me on that wait list. Put me towards the top of that wait list. I would love to spend some one-on-one time with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No, because for so many girlfriends, I've sat there on the apps with them, swiping, going, no. And they're, why? He's cute. And I go, didn't you see what he said? Nope. Yeah. And it's a process of elimination.
Okay. I think you just said the name of your, next episode.
Process of elimination.
I love it. Well, thank you everyone for joining me. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe below. Leave a comment. Tell us about how you're feeling about love these days. And keep your head above the chaos and carry on. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Carry On. Be sure to find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as always, like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And don't forget to keep your head above the chaos and carry on.